Okay, no worries. Let's start our session. So today we will mostly look up around a few of the aggregate functions and the transformations. This is the only DB source that is available for us, which is pointing to admin source and to the person dot address table. So it's address table which has like multiple data. You can see this. It has city, state province ID, and postal code, special location, modified date, and all stuff. So when you are practicing through one of the SQL functions, you might have come across the group by clause. So what it actually does is it group the data that are like formed through the queries as followed by our past parameters. So same group by operation can be performed with aggregate functions. So this aggregate tool, what it's supposed to get is that input data from any of the source, and it will go on like you just drag and drop this aggregate function and just double click on it. You will see what are the columns available for us for this and to perform the operations. So for that, I'd like to group my records and count the number of addresses available in per city. For that, I would select city column and then this star. This star is to give the count. Okay, you can also do with postal code that actually gives with a region wise or the state province ID to group with state. So we'll group with city first and then we'll see what we can do in the next operations. So here in the columns again below, so input column is city and output alias will be the same as the existing name. If you want to change it, or I can just changes, can do the changes as you want, and the operation. So this is a pretty considerable thing to be considered whenever you're dealing with aggregates. So what you want to do actually, what operation you want to like perform on the city, that you will be defining here. For now, I want to group by, and this comparison flags, count distinct scale, this stuff. If you want, you can define it. These are not much used. And coming for this, so this is star that we selected in this input columns. So from the available input columns. So that is it is the star. That means it actually goes for the counts, and this is the output alias. So if you want to like go with the new name, that you can give it here. Count on city wise. So for that, the operation I used is count all. This will automatically come when you select this particular input column star. And this defines my like basic aggregation function. And if you want to go with any of the advanced versions, you can actually go with number of scales, key scales, and all stuff. And just press on OK. So this leaves me with the error being out. So this states that our aggregation function is proper. So I'd like to see the data that is available for me, but I don't have any This particular aggregate function will actually return only two columns, which is city and count on city wise. This is the column name. Okay, so this application answers that there's the two columns, that is city and city on count on city wise. For this, to hold something of it, I'd like to create one flat file. We discussed about like different sources and destinations of data. So same way, we'll put into one of the flat files. That is this flat file connection manager that I've put in. Here, I would like to go with a destination assistant again. This one, it has an Excel. Okay, let's go with an Excel file. You guys can see this window where I'm selecting my file. Okay, for this I should be mapping the source and what it actually says, the error. This error we encountered like in the previous session as well. That time we were like a lot of the operating system dependency, but it is a this Visual Studio dependency. It is actually so the requested OLEDB provider Microsoft OLEDB 12.2 is not registered. It's 32-bit version is not available. So for this, what you should be doing is that so this Excel destination will not be working with any of your 64-bit projects until or unless you install special plugins for it. So for that, as an alternative, we have one more thing. So you just go to project properties. That will be you will be finding in the at the end of the options, at the end of the pop-up, which is properties. And build or the deployment. See here, in one of these configuration properties under the debugging, you will find the debug options, which is run 64-bit runtime set to true. This you should be setting it to false in order to get your Excel file work properly. Okay, we need to do the mappings. So here, Excel Connection Manager table of view is fine. I don't have any of the sheets available for it, so I would like to create one. This has failed to connect. Holy hell. It says connection manager itself in the faulty way. Let's try that as well. We are using the bit advanced version of the SQL Server. The property seems not set. Okay, it is set. Let's not waste the time. So with this, let me just create another table with uh, the architecture about like cities and followed by its what do you call the count of cities. So you guys see my, I can see my skills over window now. Okay, we'll go table and create one table. Let's call it output. It has two columns, which we defined in this. So that is city and count on city wise. So let's make it camel case. City, which is of n where car of some 20 and count device which is of integer. So this table creation is now complete, and we'll see what it actually happens when we like put it on. So we have the output table available for us now. This is done. So we'll go with mappings and see it automatically mapped, and just click on OK. What it says, truncation may occur due to inserting data from a city with length of 30 in the database. This particular error message or the warning, what it actually says is that in our OLEDB source, the like the city column is defined with unvar of 30, and in the OLEDB destination, we defined our column with a maximum length of 20 only. So this particular warning, it says that later truncation may occur. So if there is any city name which is of which is having length more than 20 or so, it will get truncated, and only the 20 number of characters will get inserted into a new table. So let this be, and let's say and start. Before that, I'd like to show what is the data of this output. It has nothing for now. Let's execute this. What it says here. So it got me with 19,614 rows in here. And when I applied aggregate function on searches, like you can call it a group by function on column city, it resulted me 575 rows into my OLEDB destination. That is where we should be checking this data. See here, you can see this 575 rows available in here. There is a every data is grouped with now city name. So this is how a particular aggregate function works in, and we'll see if that particular process data is proper or not. Select let's get this table name. What was it? It was address table, is it? So let's try selecting this. So it has like plenty of things available. And I'd like to get city and followed by count of city. So it gave me with 575 rows of data. So this is the query wise, and this particular output table contains also 575 rows, but with different order. We'll see how we can sort that as well. So this is about again 575 in our person table followed with the query. So this particular group by operation is very well same as this aggregate operation. So aggregate happens like group by. So are we clear so far? This is about the aggregation. And we discussed about like a bit of on sorting, how we do that. In SSMS, it is just this one clause that we write, which is order by city. This should be able to give me all the cities with starting with A. And same way, we have something called the one with sort. This is one of the transformations that is available for us. For that, we need this connection to be out. And let's connect this input to the sort function and then sort to output. So why there is like two red marks in this? So let's see. The input number of columns sorted inputs can be 0. So for this, we should actually give the mappings properly. So for this, if you double click on this sort, it will pop you up with the available number of columns. This sort. So I have two columns that is available for me, which is city and count on city wise. So I want to sort my details with on city conditions. So I'd like to select this city Here, the first checkbox to sort, and the next one I just pressed on kept it same as pass through. So this column name is pass through, which actually says that nothing to be done on this column, and just pass the value as it is. So here, if you could verify, you have input column city and output alias also city. So this alias you can change it whenever you want, and the sort type ascending or descending. So this it should be given with proper understanding. Ascending will be A to Z, and descending will be Z to A. So just click on OK. So the two red marks that are available like previously that are gone off now. So which actually says this particular flow is now proper. Let's execute this. It says same 575 rows being transferred, and same 575 rows has been put into destination table. So let's verify that in the output table only. So it says 1150 rows. So this is because we did not truncate our table output before we execute our exercise package. So it's getting successful, and let's try to re-execute this. So for that, you might have to just go on, press on Control Shift F5, which actually restarts your execution. It says all text. Let's see the data in the table output and how it is. It is sorted on the condition of city. So all the state cities starting with names A are being put in top. This is how it works. So are we clear with the sorting and the aggregation? Okay. And I'd like to create another table. For that, I actually need to see what is this table structure. With this person's dot address table, we have address ID of integer. Okay, remember this when we are like going forward, we will be looking into this address ID as an integer. For now, I'll just create with the same structure another table. But I don't want this int in my database table. So I would go with var of some 20. And I don't want this constraints to be put on. So this table contains like no constraints. And I'd like to name my table as output address. Let's execute, and this says good. Coming back to Visual Studio, here we are now complete with the aggregation and sorting. Then we'll see the typecasting as well. So whenever you are dealing with some data in SQL, you might have come across cast, try-cast, and convert and try-convert functions, which actually convert one of your databases, one of your data data type to another data type. So for that, we can actually do in Visual Studio as well when we are going through the number of action items. So we'll go with another data flow task. Let's create new one and disable old one. So data flow task, let me rename it for data flow task typecasting example. So with this, just double click on it, you will be redirected to one of this data flow task window, and I want this source assistant SQL Server AdventureWorks database is fine for me, and the destination assistant, which is also a AdventureWorks database. Let us map these columns first. So it says when I just get on two tiles from this toolbox and just map the connection, it will obviously have this red cross mark available on it. That is because we did not mention any of the properties that to be followed for this. So for that, we should be going through this like this window. It will come up on double clicking on this particular data tile, and you'll be selecting the address table here. So which is person dot address table. For that, have plenty of columns available. So this one you should be very clear with, because this we are dealing with like a lot of times. And just click on OK. That should be removing the cross mark on my OLDB source and destination as well. Same. So here first we need to select the table. So the destination table should be of output address. So this is my destination table, OP address. And I'd like to map the columns as well. So here column mapping will be automatically done when you have like proper naming being given in source and destinations. So this is a proper naming. So it actually came through few of my table columns, and it'll try to match all the matched names from input and output tables. So it will automatically map them. So we'll discuss about like what if we have like different names and how do we map them. So for that, we'll just click on OK. It will get mapped. Here, and let's go on start. It should actually copy all the data from my source to destination. It copied indeed. So which is of 19,614 rows. Let's try checking that. Let's start from OP addresses, which is given me with like lots of data, same as the person dot addresses. But the thing I wanted to show you is in here is that in this particular table, the person dot address, its address ID is data type of integer. But what we have defined in our table is that address ID as an of NVARCHAR with 20 of the length. So what it actually did is that it actually converted my person's dot address ID which is from integer data type, to address ID, which is of envarchar data type. That's where we got to see all this data for us. And for that to be in detail, let us just stop this and see advanced editor. So I've shown you like you just right click on this tile and you will be seeing this show advanced editor option. There you can see this window which actually tells all the properties of your source or the tile which you selected on. So this is connection managers. This is about like component properties. And I'd like to go with this mappings if you're like messing with somewhere around. And I'd like to go to input and output properties. So that's where you will see all the data types that are being like available and set it on. So this is source. That is because I've just selected the source one and went on with right click. So these are the columns that are available for me. Let me select the address ID. Here, if we can like see this, on selecting address ID, the data type, which is like one of the properties of this address ID column, is being set for 4 byte signed integer. So this is 4 byte signed integer data type in SSIS is equivalent to int data type in SQL Server. So this is seeing the properties of the particular column. See if you can go with line one, it says Unicode string, which is like equivalent of DTW in SSIS packages. For the city, it's almost all the Unicodes. And for the state province ID, it's a 4 byte signed integer, which is of again DT I4. This data type I4 is that integer of 4 bytes. This DT I4 is a convention that we use in our SSIS packages. So every data type that is available in our SSIS packages, that will be like put with one of these names. You can see multiple names available for us. It all starts with DT, which is data type, and followed by the type it is in. So it's an 8 byte unsigned integer, which is DT, unsigned integer, which is 8 bytes. So same way, you will find like all the data types that are available for us. So for now, I don't want any of them. So I wanted to show this address ID, which is of 4 byte signed integer. And this destination into input and output properties, again, go with this address ID, which is a Unicode string DTWSTR. So are we clear so far? So this column address ID has automatically come with Unicode string data type. So that means this integer data type has been converted to string data type automatically without being specified on it. Okay, are we clear so far? This is called implicit typecasting. Whenever there is a provision to convert like in automatically, the system will take care of it. That's actually called implicit data typecast. And what if we want to do that explicitly? So sometimes you might have like seen the string to be converted to an integer, which is the best example for explicit typecasting. Let's do that with small example. Let's delete this and try putting in data conversion. This data conversion we use to convert data from one type to another type. Let's map this to here and the output from here to here. So what it actually did, we got the data from data source and we have just put into data conversion transformation, which should convert some data from one type to another type, and then we are putting that same data back into OLEDP destinations. So what this actually contains, this particular data conversion tile, when you open it, you will see all the columns that are available for us to convert. So I'd like to convert this particular address ID, which is actually of 4 byte integer, to string, which is string DTSTR. Previously, if you had noticed, that was with Unicode string, but I would like to do this with normal string. So Unicode and ASCII strings we discussed earlier. So Unicode is the one we use for NVARCHAR, NByte, and all stuff. The data type starting with N. And for this, I'd like to go with this option, which is called string, and the length is automatically taken. That is because the way we defined our address column in the source. The code page, which is 1252. This actually the format that you wanted to convert to. So 1252 is ANSI Latin, which is actually taken by default. So there are like plenty of other things as well that you can convert it to, but usually we follow ANSI Latin in our databases. So we will be going with that. If you want to convert your data to like in a Korean language, you can go with this. And there are like plenty of other things also available for us. So like there are like plenty of other formats like Kesh. For now, we'll be going with and Latin. So just click on OK. Before that, if you want to like convert any of these other columns as well, so you can just select all of them and put into fill. Actually, this data type column will actually defaultly will be set to previously what it was. I mean, what the data type it was in previous source. It will be set automatically to that option. So if you want to change it, you just go on, just change the data type for it. Go on, change the data type for it. So for now, I don't want my address line 1 and address line 2 available for me. So I want to convert this address ID, which was of some data type, which is int, and to the string str. So we'll delete our data in output table, OP addresses table. So this deleted 19614 table records, and this here by this window, I have defined my address ID to be converted from int to string, and just click on OK. This states that it gives me no error actually. This is because the mapping is done properly, and as well as the conversion column is done manually, but with proper way. let's try putting on the data viewer here. So for that, you should be going with enable data viewer. And let's start running. See here, this is one of the data output window that we got with rows display 9882. And it's like maximum length. And if you go on like the next ones, it will go to another next available 9732. If it is available anything else, nothing. So when the buffer size is less, but our data flow is more, that time like the first screen, the first output window, which with this screen, this output window will be containing only a set of data, which like not more than like maybe 10,000 or stuff. And that is depending on the data content that is coming from previous source or previous source. So if you have like some 20 columns data which are like holding 20 bytes each or like 32 bytes each, you won't be getting this 10,000 number of rows available in the first window screen itself. So you'll be ending up with almost like maybe some 300 or 400 rows. That is because it actually counters, counts with your buffer size. Okay, so this buffer size has been set like with as I have the less column numbers, it's pretty much available for me to copy the 10,000 rows. So just click on close. You will see this transformation being successful. Let me stop this. So this is about typecasting. So whenever you want to like convert one data type to another data type of any of the available data, you will be using this. And let's see, we have one more thing, which is derived column, which is pretty much interesting one. For this, let me break this connection. Okay, we are discussing about the derived column now. So let's now see, delete this particular connection here and let's put on to the derived column. Let's go and double click this. So here, what do you actually mean by derived column? So whenever we want like if we have a requirement to create a new column on basis of like the existing ones, like one of the best example was while you're capturing, you will be capturing the details of a person or an employee, which is in the format of like, if you want to capture the name, you will be capturing in the form of first name, middle name, last name, like if we have any suffixes or prefixes or whatever it is. So you'll be capturing in that way. But when you're displaying, you'll be displaying only in the format of first name, middle name, and then last name. So that will be coming under one column. For that, what we should be doing is this derived column is the best solution. What actually it does is that it actually creates a new column. So the derived column name itself says that something's been derived from like the source. So that I would like to do now. From this source, I've just created one derived column, which actually takes all the columns from the source, and then double click on this derived column, and we will have like these variables we discussed in like previous session one of while we discussing the row count. That time we created this count variable, which is a user variable. We no longer need this for now. So we'll discuss about the columns that are available for us now. So this is the address ID column. Drag and drop. So what it actually says, the address ID is being derived with new column. This is the column that will be newly created. So I'd like to name this column derived address ID. So this name that you can give as per your wish whenever you are dealing with derived columns. And this derived column property, this property is pretty much important. So when you're selecting with add as a new column, it will actually add new column to your output data. So whenever so this we are discussing here. So from this source, this data will come to this derived column, which is of like plenty of data available for us now. And this will be the format of output of your column, how you want this new column to be. That is, so replace address ID column. The same, like you will have plenty of options to replace your existing columns as such. So for now, I don't want to replace it anything. I just want to add a new column. The expression, this is again a pretty much important one that we'll be discussing. And coming for this expression, while we are discussing about this expression, we will be discussing about all these functions available for us. See, there are like mathematical functions which are available in one of our the SQL Server Management Studio's SQL Server. So we have absolute for this is a numeric all these are mathematical expressions, functions that we discussed like pretty much in detail. In the same way, we have string functions. If you want your address ID to be converted to any of these string types. So this is one way of doing the data conversion as well. You can do this in this way as well, and you can trim off your characters, spaces, leading spaces, trailing spaces, whatever the string functions that you can use on this with this expression. And what is the data type that you want your new derived column to be in? That is 4-byte signed integer. This is automatically taken because its address ID column has come up with that particular data type. So rest all the precision scale and stuff. This precision and scale will be available for floating numbers, and the length will be available for the text columns, such as varchar or nvarchar. Just click on OK. So this now has like one column extra for us, and let's map this to this. So now the source data contains like set of columns, and with the derived column, we added one more column extra, which we can see not in here. We'll be seeing in the next tab. So this added actually one new column, and coming to the data conversion, you can go and see this derived address ID available for us. This is a new column that we created, derived address ID, and just click on OK. So which one you want to like convert it to be? So that you can see it here. And this here where we come up with like multiple columns that are available for us. See here when you go to mappings, maximize this. This as well, this and this. See here in the output columns we have derived address and copy of address ID available for us. This copy of address ID columns been come up with the sort not the sort, which is this data conversion transformation that we did for that. And while in this mapping, you can see like address ID has been mapped to address ID and stuff. But I don't want this address ID to be mapped to my address ID. I want some other new column to be available for my destination column. First, if you just go on and go on with the drop down, you will find the unmapped columns as well. I'd like to go with one of my derived column. Here, mapping changes to from this to this. So this derived address ID is now mapped to address ID. This is the destination, this is the source. So my new column which I formed, that will be mapped to address ID that is available in my destination table. So for now, I'll just delete the data from this and let's try this flow again. I don't want this data viewer to be enabled for me now. For that, select the connection and then disable data viewer. Let's start this. It says 919,614 rows been flowing through our flow diagram. So by this you got to know that how we create new columns and how we typecast and how we sort all the stuff. So this is derived column, pretty much important one that you should be taking care of. And let's see the data. What is the table name? OP address. It has same data content come like all sorted that you did not take care of it, but all the data available for us. And this is actually from derived column. So are we clear so far? The derived column as well. Okay, I'm ending this session here. From tomorrow, try to join on time.